The night was cold and empty. The small town street was almost silent, only the sound of a flickering streetlight and the distant bark of a dog breaking the stillness. He walked alone, hands deep in his jacket pockets, tired from a long day. He wanted nothing more than to go home, eat something warm, and sleep. But fate had other plans for him tonight. As he turned the corner, he froze. There in the shadows of the alley, he saw a scene that made his heart stop. 3 men stood around something small. They were whispering, laughing, their knives flashing under the weak light. And in the center, he could not believe his eyes, was a child. But not a human child. The figure was thin, shaking, with skin that glowed faintly like silver light. Its big black eyes looked terrified, tears sliding down its strange face. The men pushed the child against the wall, one of them raising a blade. The man's chest tightened. It was impossible. An alien child. Here on Earth? His mind screamed at him to run, to pretend he never saw this. But his legs moved before his thoughts could catch up. "Hey!" he shouted. His voice echoed down the street. The attackers turned, their faces twisted in anger. "Walk away!" one of them growled, pointing the knife at him. This isn't your business, but it was. In that moment, something inside him refused to back down. Maybe it was the helpless look in the child's eyes. Maybe it was his own stubborn heart. He stepped forward. "Leave the kid alone," the men laughed. One of them spat on the ground. "You think you're a hero? You'll die for nothing." Before he could answer, they rushed at him. The first stab came fast, slicing into his side. Pain exploded in his body, but he didn't fall. He shoved the attacker away, throwing a wild punch. The second man's knife cut across his arm. Hot blood ran down his sleeve. Still, he stood in front of the child. He didn't even know why. He only knew he couldn't move, couldn't let them pass. The third attacker lunged, stabbing into his stomach. He gasped, his knees buckling. But when he saw the alien child crying behind him, he forced himself up again. They stabbed him again and again.
8 times in total.
Each blade cut deeper, each wound worse than the last. His vision blurred. His breath came in short, painful bursts. His body screamed at him to fall, to give up. But he stayed standing. With the last of his strength, he pushed one of the attackers into the wall, his fist smashing against the man's face. Another kick sent the second stumbling back. The third cursed and ran into the night, dragging the others with him. The alley went quiet. He collapsed to his knees, blood soaking the ground. The alien child crawled closer, tiny hands shaking as it touched his face. Its eyes glowed brighter, filled with sorrow. He tried to smile at the child, whispering, "You're safe now." Then darkness swallowed him. He expected death. He expected nothing but the endless cold. But instead, he woke up. His eyes opened slowly, blinking against the dim light of his own room. He was lying in his bed, the familiar ceiling above him, the smell of home around him. His body should have been broken, stabbed, bleeding, but there was no pain. Only faint scars where the wounds should be. He sat up fast, his heart racing. "What? How?" he whispered. It didn't make sense, then he heard it. A sound outside. Heavy footsteps in perfect rhythm. A strange hum, like energy charging inside a machine. He stood and walked to the window. What he saw froze his blood. Shapes, tall, armored figures, stood in the shadows outside his house. Their armor shone with alien light, their weapons humming with power he couldn't even understand. Their glowing eyes scanned the night. They were soldiers. Not human soldiers. Elite alien warriors. And they were standing at his doorstep, his breath caught. Why were they here? Did they know about the child? Did they know what he had done? The footsteps grew louder. A shadow moved across his door. The handle turned slowly. The door began to open. The door creaked open and he held his breath. His fists tightened even though his body still felt weak. The memory of 8 knives cutting into him was still fresh in his mind. Yet here he was, alive. And now, strange figures were entering his home. The first one stepped inside. The soldier was tall, almost 7 feet, covered in black armor that glowed with lines of silver light. The helmet had no face, only 2 burning eyes, bright as stars. The weapon in his hand hummed softly like thunder waiting to strike. 3 more followed, their heavy boots thumping against the wooden floor. The air inside the house changed, filled with a strange energy, thick and heavy, as if the walls themselves could feel their presence. He stumbled back, his voice shaking. Who are you? What do you want?" The soldiers didn't answer at first. Instead, the leader raised a hand. The others stopped, standing like statues. The leader removed his helmet. The face underneath was not human. The skin shimmered like polished stone, pale and metallic. His eyes were deep blue, glowing faintly. He looked at the human not with hate, but with something else, something closer to respect. The soldier spoke, his voice deep and echoing. Protector. The word hit him like a shock. What? He whispered. The soldier stepped closer. You stood against death. You stood against blades of cowards. You shielded the royal child with your flesh. He placed a fist over his chest. For that, you are now chosen. The man shook his head. His heart raced faster. I don't understand. I was just trying to save a child. That's it. The alien's eyes glowed brighter. The child was no ordinary one. He is heir to our empire, the last hope of our kind. And you, human, took 8 blades so he could live. He blinked, confused, afraid, but also strangely moved. The child he had seen crying in the alley was royal, important. How could that be? He stammered. If he's so important, then why me? Why not your own soldiers? The alien soldier's jaw tightened. Because none of us were there. And because courage cannot be given. Courage is only found. The room went silent. He felt the weight of their eyes, the weight of something far bigger than himself pressing down on his shoulders. Before he could speak again, the sound of engines roared outside. He rushed to the window. A massive shape floated above the neighborhood, silent, black, and terrifying. It was no airplane. It was a ship. An alien warship hovering over his small street. His mouth went dry. Everyone will see this. No, the soldier said calmly. He tapped a device on his wrist. The ship shimmered, fading from sight, hidden behind some kind of cloaking field. Only you see it. Only we are here. The human shook his head in disbelief. Why are you here? What do you want from me? The leader's voice grew sharp. The ones who stabbed you, they were servants of our enemy. They know your face now. They know you lived. They will come for you, and they will come for your world. You must come with us now. The word struck him like a hammer. Leave Earth? Leave everything behind? His job, his family, his life? He wasn't a soldier, wasn't a hero. He was just an ordinary man who made one choice in the dark. I can't, he whispered. This is my home. The alien's eyes narrowed. If you stay, you die, and your people will die with you. For a moment, silence filled the house. The ticking clock on the wall seemed louder than the soldier's breathing. He wanted to scream, to argue, to wake up and find this was all a dream. But the scars on his body told him it was real. The memory of the child's eyes told him it was real. He swallowed hard. And if I go? The alien soldier leaned closer, his voice low but powerful. Then you live. You learn. And maybe you become more than human. The man's chest rose and fell as he tried to breathe through the storm inside his head. He wanted to say no. He wanted to shut the door and forget. But deep inside, a strange pull told him he had already crossed the line. The moment he shielded that child, his life had changed forever. Suddenly, the floor shook. A loud blast came from outside. The windows rattled, glass almost breaking. A red glow spread across the night sky. The alien soldier turned sharply, speaking in his own language. The other soldiers moved fast, their weapons lighting up, their armor glowing brighter. The leader looked back at the human, his eyes blazing. They found us. Who? The man shouted. The enemy, the soldier growled. He pointed to the door. Decide now, stay and die or come with us. The human's heart pounded. He looked outside where shadows of strange ships were appearing in the clouds, fire already falling from the sky. His hands trembled. His mind screamed. His whole life balanced on a single choice, and then he stepped forward. The choice was made. He stepped forward, past the broken door, into the night where shadows of alien soldiers stood waiting. His heart thundered inside his chest. Behind him, Earth felt so close, so safe. Ahead of him, the unknown waited like an endless ocean. The leader raised his hand, and the soldiers closed ranks around him. Their glowing armor lit up the dark street. Then, without warning, a beam of silver light shot down from the clouds. It wrapped around them like a cage of fire. His stomach dropped. His feet left the ground. The world around him blurred, spinning, fading. He wanted to scream, but no sound left his mouth. The silver light pulled him upward, higher and higher, until the houses below were tiny specks. Then the clouds parted, and he saw it. A ship. No, not a ship. A fortress in the sky. It hung above Earth like a dark mountain covered in silver lights that pulsed like a heartbeat. Its size was impossible. 1,000 airplanes could fit inside its belly. As the beam carried him closer, he saw towers, glowing windows, and long wings stretching across the stars. And then, with a flash of light, the Earth disappeared. He stumbled as his feet touched solid ground again. His lungs burned, his head spun. When he blinked the blur from his eyes, his jaw fell open. He stood inside a hall so vast it seemed endless. The walls shimmered like liquid metal, flowing with streams of blue energy. The floor glowed faintly, showing reflections of the soldiers around him. Strange symbols floated in the air, alive and shifting, as if the language itself was made of light. He whispered to himself, "I'm inside an alien ship." The leader removed his helmet again. His glowing blue eyes studied the human. "Welcome, Protector." The human swallowed hard. He didn't feel like a protector. He felt like a scared man far from home. But before he could answer, movement caught his eye. At the far end of the hall, a small figure appeared. Thin, fragile, skin glowing faintly silver. Big black eyes that seemed older than the stars. The child, the alien child he had saved in the alley. It ran forward, stumbling on weak legs, and stopped before him. The child looked up, its eyes shining with something he didn't understand. Gratitude. Trust. "You live," the child whispered in a strange accent, the voice weak but clear. "You protected me." For a moment, the man forgot the soldiers, the ship, even his fear. He knelt slowly, meeting the child's gaze. "Of course I did. I couldn't let them hurt you." The child touched his hand gently. Its skin was cold yet comforting. The connection sent a strange warmth into his chest like a spark of energy. The alien commander stepped forward. "The one you saved is Kale. He is heir to the Solari Empire. His bloodline carries the last of our ancient power. Without him, our people fall." The man looked from the commander to the child, shock written across his face. "Heir? Empire? I don't even know what that means. I'm just a man. Why am I here?" The commander's eyes hardened. "Because by saving him, you have stepped into our war. The enemies who stabbed you already spread word across the stars. They call you the human shield. They want your death." The human's stomach twisted. "I never asked for this." "No one asks for destiny," the commander said. Suddenly, the hall darkened. The streams of blue light froze. A giant hologram appeared in the air, filling the chamber. It was a face. A terrible, scarred alien face with burning red eyes. The voice that came from it rumbled like thunder. "Solari worms," the voice growled. "You hide behind your broken empire. You send soldiers to protect a child. But I know the truth. A human now carries your honor. Bring him to me, or your Earth burns." The image flickered, showing Earth below. The warlord's ships circled it like vultures, weapons glowing. The man's breath caught in his throat. His home, his family, all of it was now in danger. Because of him, the hologram vanished. The hall fell silent, but the silence was heavier than 1,000 screams. The commander turned to the human. "Do you see now? They will not stop. They will hunt you until you are ashes. The only path is forward." The man shook his head, fear rising in his chest. "Forward to what? I'm not a soldier. I can't fight armies. I'm nobody." The child Kale looked up at him, eyes glowing softly. "Not nobody, protector." The word cut deep into him. He wanted to deny it, to turn away. But the child's gaze held him steady and unbroken. For the first time, he felt the weight of what he had done. Not just saving a child, but saving hope. He closed his eyes, breathing hard. He wanted to go home. But his home was now under threat. He wanted peace, but war had already found him. When he opened his eyes again, his hands were trembling. But his voice was steady. "Then teach me. If I can't run, then I'll fight. But I fight my way. Human way." The commander stared at him for a long moment. Then slowly, he bowed his head. "So be it." The ship drifted silently through the endless dark, stars shining like cold fires outside its massive windows. Inside, the human walked through the glowing halls, his mind heavy with questions. Every step echoed. Every alien eye followed him. The Solari soldiers did not hide their stares. Some looked at him with curiosity, some with suspicion, and some with open hatred. He was an outsider, a fragile being of flesh and bone surrounded by warriors born from metal and light. He heard their whispers as he passed. Why him? A human? Unworthy. He is weakness. He is danger. He kept his head down, but his fists clenched. He hadn't asked for any of this. All he had done was save a child. And now he was trapped in a war that wasn't his. The commander, Vayar, summoned him to the council chamber. The chamber was a circle of tall alien generals, their armor glowing with different symbols of rank. Holograms of star maps floated above the table, showing fleets and battles across the galaxy. The human felt small, like a grain of sand standing in a storm. Vayar raised his voice. This is the Protector. He is the one who shielded the air with his body. He carries scars of loyalty. One general slammed a fist against the table. Scars? He carries weakness. Look at him, soft skin, fragile bones. He is prey, not warrior, another hissed. He should be sent back to his world before he poisons the air. The man finally spoke, his voice sharp with anger. I didn't ask to be here. I didn't ask for your titles or your enemies. I only tried to stop a child from being killed. That's it. The chamber fell silent. His words echoed. For a moment, even the generals paused. The alien child, Kale, stood from his seat. His voice was soft, but it carried weight. He is not weakness. He is the reason I live. You bow to tradition, but he acted when no one else did. He is my protector. The generals exchanged uneasy glances. Even they could not openly deny the heir's word. Vayar stepped forward. His tone was calm, but his eyes were serious. Perhaps we should test him. Let him prove if he is truly only flesh or something more. The man frowned. Test me how? The answer came in the training hall. The room was enormous, walls lined with weapons that seemed alive, swords made of pure light, staffs humming with energy, shields that floated on their own. The floor shifted like liquid, adjusting itself for combat. A Solari warrior stepped forward, taller and stronger than the rest. His armor gleamed gold. He drew a blade that sang like fire. This is Serac, Vayar explained, our finest duelist. If you survive him, perhaps you are worth the heir's trust. The human's throat went dry. Survive? You're asking me to fight that? The commander's face was stone. Yes. The duel began. Serac moved like lightning, the blade slashing through the air. The human dodged barely, his heart racing. He had no weapon, no armor. Every strike could have ended him. He stumbled, fell, rolled across the floor. Laughter rang out from the soldiers watching, but every time Serac struck, the human rose again. His body screamed with pain, sweat pouring down his face, but he refused to stay down. At last, Serac drove the blade forward. The tip cut across the human's chest, deep enough to bleed but not to kill. He gasped, falling to one knee. The hall grew quiet. Serac looked down at him, expecting surrender. But slowly, shaking, the human pushed himself up. He spat blood, wiped his mouth, and raised his fists. Is that all you've got? He growled. For the first time, Serac's eyes flickered with surprise. The generals whispered among themselves. Vayar stepped forward, raising his hand. Enough, he has proven something. The human collapsed, gasping for air. But inside him a strange fire burned. He had stood against something impossible, and he had not broken. Later, in the medical chamber, alien healers examined his wounds. Their instruments glowed, scanning deep into his blood. Suddenly, one of them gasped. Commander, the healer said. His cells. They are not like ours. They adapt. They heal faster than expected, Vayar frowned. Explain, the healer's voice shook. The blades that pierced him carried dark energy. Any other being would be dead. But his blood, it changed. It absorbed. It resists. The room went still. The healer whispered the final words. This human may become more dangerous than any soldier we have ever created. The human sat up, confused and angry. What are you saying? That I'm some kind of weapon now? The healer only looked at him with wide eyes. That night, the human couldn't sleep. He sat in the strange metal room given to him, staring at the stars outside the window. His chest still ached, his arms still shook. He wanted to go home. But he couldn't. Earth was no longer safe, and now even the aliens feared him. He whispered to himself, What am I becoming? Behind the door, unseen in the shadows, two alien soldiers whispered. He is no ordinary man. No, he may be worse. Or he may be our only chance. The silence of space was broken by alarms. Red lights flashed through the alien ship's long halls. A low siren wailed like a wounded beast. Soldiers ran in formation, weapons glowing as they prepared for war. The human was still sitting in the medical chamber when the walls shook violently. He grabbed the edge of the table to keep from falling. "What's happening?" he shouted. Vayar stormed into the room, his armor already glowing with power. "Enemy raiders. They have found us," the human's stomach twisted. He had heard the word before, enemy. The ones who had sent assassins after the child. Now they were here. Kyle, the alien child, appeared behind Vayar. His black eyes were wide with fear, but he stood close to the commander. "They want me," Kyle whispered. "They will not stop." The ship shook again, harder this time. Sparks flew from the ceiling. Somewhere in the distance, the sound of metal tearing apart echoed like thunder. Vayar snapped an order in his language. Two soldiers grabbed the human by the arms, pulling him toward the door. "Wait," he cried. "What am I supposed to do?" "I can't fight your war." Vayar's eyes locked on him. "Stay alive. Protect the air. That is your war." The corridors burned with light as explosions rocked the ship. The human stumbled forward, surrounded by alien warriors. For the first time, he saw what battle looked like between stars. Enemies burst through a broken wall, strange, twisted creatures in jagged armor. Their weapons spat fire like molten rock. The Solari soldiers returned fire, beams of blue energy cutting through the invaders. The human froze. His legs refused to move. His mind screamed, "Run, hide, survive." One of the enemy raiders turned, its glowing eyes locking on Kale. It roared and charged, blade raised high. The human didn't think. He moved. He threw himself in front of Kale, just as he had in the alley. The blade slashed across his arm, blood spraying. Pain exploded, but he did not fall. He grabbed the alien's weapon arm, holding it back with all his strength. The raider hissed, twisting, stronger than any human should face, but the man refused to let go. He rammed his knee into the creature's side, then headbutted it with all the force he had. The alien staggered, stunned, and in that moment, the human grabbed the raider's own blade and drove it into its chest. The creature screeched, collapsing in sparks of fire. The soldiers stared for a brief second. Then one shouted in their language, a sound that might have been respect. The human panted, blood dripping from his arm. His vision swam. He expected to fall. But something strange happened. His wound, though deep, slowed its bleeding. His body refused to collapse. What's happening to me?" he whispered. No answer came. The battle swallowed his words. They pressed forward, pushing toward the safe chamber where Kale could be hidden. But the raiders kept coming. More and more poured through the broken ship. The halls became chaos. Fire, screams, steel against steel. The human fought clumsily but fiercely. He had no training, no alien weapon, only instinct. He grabbed pipes, broken pieces of metal, anything to strike with. He ducked, dodged, and took blows that should have crushed him. Each time he thought he would die, something inside him burned hotter. His muscles refused to give up. His blood boiled with energy that did not feel human. One soldier pulled him aside, shouting, "Protector, how are you still standing?" He didn't know. He didn't care. All he knew was Kale was behind him, and nothing would touch the child while he breathed. Finally, they reached the safe chamber, a sealed dome of crystal, glowing with protective runes. The soldiers pushed Kyle inside. The door locked, shielding the child. The human leaned against the wall, shaking, his arms covered in blood. He wanted to rest just for a moment. Then the wall behind them exploded. A massive raider stepped through the fire, twice the size of the others. Its armor black as night, its weapon glowing with dark energy. The air turned cold just from its presence. The Solari soldiers charged, shouting battle cries. The giant swung once, and 3 of them were thrown across the hall, broken. The human's throat went dry. This was no soldier. This was a monster. The creature's red eyes locked on the crystal chamber. It raised its weapon, aiming for Kale. The human knew what he had to do. "No!" he roared, throwing himself forward. He slammed into the giant with everything he had. The blade came down, slicing across his back, burning like fire. He screamed, but he didn't stop. He grabbed the monster's arm, forcing it away from the chamber. The alien warrior snarled, shaking him like a rag doll. The human's bones felt like they would snap. But he clung on, refusing to let go. Vayar appeared, his own blade cutting into the giant's side. Soldiers fired, beams striking its armor. The creature roared in pain, finally stumbling. With the last of his strength, the human drove his head against the monster's chest. The impact cracked something deep inside the alien. The giant collapsed with a shudder, fire spilling from its armor. The hall went silent. The human fell to his knees, gasping, his body trembling. Blood dripped down his back, but somehow he was still breathing. Still alive. The soldiers looked at him with wide eyes, not with doubt this time, but with something else. Respect. Vayar placed a hand on his shoulder. You should be dead 10 times over, yet you stand. Perhaps courage is not your only gift. The human looked up, eyes burning. I'm not your soldier. I'm not your weapon. I'm just a man who refuses to let a child die. Kyle's small voice echoed from behind the crystal door. Protector? The alarms quieted. The ship groaned but held together. For now the battle was over, but everyone knew this was only the beginning. The warlord's armies would not stop. And now the human was more than just a protector. He was a target. The ship floated in silence after the battle. Repairs began at once, walls sealed, fires put out, broken metal melted back into shape. The Solari soldiers moved like a living machine, each step precise. Each order followed without question. But even in that silence, unease spread like poison. The human walked the halls, his body still sore from wounds that should have killed him. Soldiers stepped aside as he passed, not with scorn this time, but with whispers. Some bowed their heads, others clenched their fists in respect. He didn't feel like a hero. His hands still shook when he remembered the monster's red eyes, the way its blade burned his back. He still woke from flashes of pain and the sound of Kale calling, Protector. Yet something had changed. They were watching him now, not as an outsider, but as something dangerous, something unknown. That night he found Kale sitting near the star window. The child's small frame glowed faintly against the endless dark. Stars stretched across the black like rivers of fire. Can't sleep? The man asked softly. Kale shook his head. When I close my eyes, I see their faces. The ones who want me dead. The man sat beside him. I see them too. The child looked up, big black eyes searching his face. Why do you keep standing for me? You could have run. You could have let me die. Why fight for someone not your kind? The man thought for a long time. His voice was quiet when he finally spoke. Because a child is a child. Human or alien doesn't matter. You shouldn't have to bleed for someone else's war. Kale leaned against him, fragile but warm. Then maybe you are more Solari than human. The man almost laughed, but the weight of those words pressed deep inside him. In the command chamber, the generals argued. He is too dangerous, one barked. Our healers say his blood changes when struck with dark energy. What if he becomes a weapon we cannot control? Or worse, another growled. What if he chooses their side? Vayar silenced them with a glare. He has proven himself with actions. He stands where our own soldiers fell, and the air trusts him. But doubt lingered. Not everyone was convinced. The betrayal came quietly. A message was sent through the ship's hidden channels, encoded with Solari signals. A traitor among them had whispered to the enemy, giving them their location. No one knew until it was too late. The attack struck like thunder. Explosions ripped across the ship's outer hull. The hall shook, lights flickered, alarms screamed. Solari soldiers ran to their stations, shouting war cries. The human staggered from his room as the floor split under his feet. Smoke filled the air. He could hear Kale's frightened voice calling from the corridor. He ran, shoving past soldiers until he found the child. Kale clung to him, trembling. They've come for me again. The man pulled him close. Then they'll have to go through me. Vayar appeared, his face grim. There is a traitor on this ship. Someone betrayed us. The raiders knew exactly where to strike. Who? The man demanded. Vayar's voice was stone. I will find them. But for now, we fight. The corridors turned to war. Raiders poured through breaches, weapons burning, their war cries echoing like demons. The Solari fought back, blades of light clashing against blades of darkness. The human stayed close to Kale, striking when he had to, pulling the child out of danger again and again. He felt the same fire in his blood, keeping him on his feet long after exhaustion should have claimed him. But the enemy pressed harder. They wanted the child. They wanted the human too. In the chaos, a familiar voice cut through the smoke. A Solari officer, someone the man had seen bowing before Kale days ago, suddenly turned his weapon not on the raiders but on his own. He struck down a fellow soldier, eyes blazing with betrayal. The human froze in shock. You, the traitor sneered. You think you protect the air? You bring only ruin. Our empire is dying, and one child cannot save it. But the warlord can rebuild. I will give him the boy, and the human who thinks himself a hero. Before the man could react, the traitor pressed a device. A blast of light filled the hall. The force threw him backward, slamming him against the wall. His body burned with pain. Through the haze, he saw Kale struggling, tiny hands reaching for him as the traitor grabbed the child and pulled him into the shadows. "Protector," Kale screamed. The human tried to rise, but his body betrayed him. His arms shook, his chest heaved. He crawled forward, nails scraping the floor. But the smoke swallowed the child's small figure. The last thing he saw was the traitors, cold eyes and the cruel glow of enemy ships outside the breach. Then, Kale was gone. The man lay on the broken floor, his heart pounding, rage burning hotter than the wounds in his body. His voice cracked as he whispered into the smoke. "They took him, and they'll pay for it." The halls of the great warship lay in ruin. Smoke drifted through broken walls and sparks rained from torn wires. The human stood alone in the wreckage, his fists clenched, his breath ragged. Kyle was gone. Taken by betrayal, taken by the enemy. His wounds still bled, but his heart burned hotter than fire. He had saved the child once on a dark street on Earth. He would do it again, even if it cost him everything. Vayar stepped from the shadows, his armor scorched from battle. "The warlord has him," the commander said. "The traitor delivered the heir. They want you to. They wait for you to come." The man's jaw tightened. "Then take me to them." Vayar studied him for a moment, then bowed his head. "You are only human, yet you have done what none of us dared. If you go, you may not return." The human's eyes burned with fury. "If I don't go, Kyle won't return. So I go." The alien fleet moved across the stars into the warlord's territory. Each ship glowed like a burning spear, slicing through the void. Finally, the enemy fortress appeared, a monstrous construct of black stone and metal, floating among shattered moons. Its towers glowed red, pulsing like veins of fire. It was less a fortress and more a wound carved into space itself. The human stared at it, fear gnawing at his chest. Yet beneath the fear, resolve grew. He had nothing left but this fight. They landed inside the fortress. The air was heavy, poisoned with smoke and ash. The walls were alive with strange red symbols glowing like blood. And there, at the far end of the hall, stood the warlord, a towering figure of scarred armor and burning eyes. His presence filled the chamber like a storm. Beside him, chained and weak, was Kale. The child's eyes lifted, filled with both fear and hope. "Protector," Kale whispered. The warlord's voice shook the ground. "Human, you are nothing, flesh, weakness, yet you stand before me as if you are more. Tell me, why?" The man stepped forward, every muscle screaming, every wound aching. "Because you forgot one thing." His voice grew stronger with each word. "Weak doesn't mean worthless. And flesh. Flesh can endure more pain than you can imagine." The warlord laughed, the sound like thunder. "Then endure this." The battle began. The warlord struck first, his blade a storm of fire. The human dodged barely, the force shaking the floor. He grabbed a broken staff from the ground, raising it like a shield. The blade cut through it like paper, sparks burning his hands. The man countered with his fists, driving them into the warlord's chest. The impact echoed, but the warlord barely flinched. With a backhand strike, the giant sent the human crashing into the wall. Bones cracked, blood filled his mouth. Still he rose. Again and again the warlord struck him down. Again and again the human got back up. His body was broken, but his spirit refused to break. "You cannot win," the warlord growled. "Maybe not," the man gasped, spitting blood. "But I can stand," and he did. Kale's chains rattled as the child reached out. His eyes glowed brighter, filled with desperate energy. "Protector," Kale whispered. "Take my strength." A surge of light burst from the child, flowing into the human like fire through his veins. His wounds burned, but the pain turned into power. His blood boiled with energy that fused with his stubborn will. The warlord roared, charging forward. But this time, when the blade came down, the human caught it in his bare hands. The fire scorched him, yet he held firm, muscles trembling, refusing to let go. With a scream, he twisted, breaking the weapon in half. The warlord stumbled back in shock. And the human struck, punch after punch, fueled by fury, by Kale's power, by the endless fire of the human spirit. At last, with one final roar, he drove his fist into the warlord's chest. The impact cracked armor, bone, and soul. The warlord fell, the fortress shaking with his collapse. Silence. The human collapsed to his knees, gasping. His body was broken, but his spirit blazed. The chains around Kyle shattered. The child ran forward, falling into his arms. "You came," Cale whispered, tears glowing like silver. "Always," the man said softly, holding him close. Vayer and the surviving soldiers entered, their eyes wide with awe. They saw the fallen warlord, the broken human, and the free heir. And then in unison they saluted, not to a king, not to a commander, but to a human. Later, aboard the repaired ship, the stars stretched out once more. Kyle stood by the window, the human beside him. The child smiled faintly. "You are not just protector now. You are part of our history." The man looked at the stars, his voice quiet but firm. "I'm not a hero. I'm just a man who refused to let a child die." Cale's small hand gripped his tightly. "Sometimes that is what makes a hero." The human closed his eyes, the weight of pain and loss heavy. But inside, a strange peace grew. He had fought. He had endured. And in the end, he had protected not just a child, but hope itself.